Session 59, and we're still busy with the second commandment, you shall have no other gods before my face, which forms part of the 10 commandments, which is the summary of the two greatest commandments. You shall love Yahuwah and how to love your neighbor. So currently, we are busy exploring all the individual commandments that fall under monotheism, which says that you shall have no other gods before Yahuwah. And we continue with Numbers 15, verse 38 to 39. Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringes of the border a ribbon of blue. Blue is what they made the tzitzit of, that is the tassels that hang on the corners of the prayer shawl that the Jewish people still wear today, that Yeshua was wearing in his time, and all the disciples and all the people of Israel and all the Messianic believers today that understand the significance is still wearing that. So God says the reason why you wear the tzitzit or the fringe on the corner of your garments is so that you may use your eyes and look upon it. And when you look upon it, you will remember the commandments of Yahuwah. And when you remember the commandments of Yahuwah, you will not, listen to this now, because this is a commandment, one of the commandments that falls under monotheism, no idolatry. So he says, when you look at the tzitzit, you will not seek after your own heart and not do what is right in your own eyes, so that you don't go whoring after other religions. This is one of the commandments that tells us how to love God, so that we don't love Him by doing things that we think is right, that we think in our little, but He knows my heart. He knows that I've got good intentions. It doesn't matter. He says, do not worship me with what you think in your heart is good and what you in your eyes think is right. You worship me by looking upon the blue, which represents my commandments, and you remember my commandments, and that is how you serve me. Okay, next one, Leviticus 19 verse 4. Turn not unto idols, don't make yourselves any molten gods. I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. And he repeats it in Exodus 20 verse 23. You shall not make besides me any gods of silver or gods of gold. So molten, of course, is melted. So they did use to melt gold and silver and brass and make all sorts of idols from it, physical idols. They also made it out of stone and rock and wood. We laughed when we read Jeremiah 10, where Jeremiah laughs at the people that takes a piece of wood, makes an idol out of it, and the rest of the wood he uses to make a fire on which he makes his food. So the one piece of wood he burns up and makes fire, and the other piece of wood he bows down and worships. Idolatry is ridiculous, but it's much more than just gold and silver and wood. It's got to do with any other way of worship that is not prescribed in the law of God. Because if you do any other manner in which you worship God, or if you worship another God and you think it is this God, but you are not worshiping Him according to the commandments, then He says that you are breaking the commandments because you are doing what is right in your own eyes, and you're not doing what I say is right. And he continues to give a very, very extremely difficult commandment. And I want you to listen. I'm going to just read through all of these commandments, and I'm not going to now explain any of them. I want you to listen to your God speaking to you, explaining to you how important His commandments are. Because even if your brother, this is Deuteronomy 13, verse 6 to 17. If your brother, the son of your mother, or your son, or your daughter, or your wife, whom you love, or even your friend, which is as close to you as your own soul, if they entice you secretly, and they say, "Come on, let's go and serve other gods." Namely, all the gods of the people who are around us. Look at all the pagan people around us. Look at all their interesting religions. Let's go to them. And these gods you don't know. They are far from you. These gods are from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. The earth is full of all kinds of these gods and all kinds of religions and worship systems. You shall not listen to your brother or your daughter or your son or your friend, neither will you hearken unto him. Neither shall your eye pity him, neither shall you spare him, neither shall you conceal or hide him when judgment comes upon him. These are all commandments. We've just counted about 7 or 8 commandments that falls under how to love God, how to not have idolatry in your life. God continues, you shall not have pity on this brother of yours. You shall kill him. Your hand shall be first upon him to put him to death, and then the rest of the people in the camp will put him to death. Certain men, the children of Belial, are gone out from among you and have withdrawn the inhabitants of their city, saying, let us go and serve other gods, gods which you don't know. Then shall you inquire, and you shall search, and you shall ask diligently, and behold, if it is true, and this thing is certain, that such abominations is being done amongst you, you shall surely smite and kill and destroy the inhabitants of that city that is enticing you to worship their gods. You shall destroy it utterly, all that is in there, even the cattle, with the edge of the sword. And you shall gather all the spoil, all the treasure of that city, into the midst of the street of that city, and you shall burn it with fire in the city, and all the spoil thereof, for Yahuwah is your Elohim, and it shall be a heap forever. It shall not be built again. That city shall never be built again. And they shall cleave none of those cursed things to your hand, that Yahuwah may turn from the fierceness of his anger and judgment, and show mercy, and have compassion upon you, and multiply you, as he has sworn unto your fathers. So I don't really feel like breaking this up for you. You have enough intelligence now, and you have enough Bible knowledge now to know exactly what it means, that even if your own brother or your mother or your wife entices you towards another religion and tells you that obedience to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is not the only way, but there are other ways. When they entice you, in the ancient times, you brought them 2 or 3 witnesses to the judges, and when the judges found them guilty, you were supposed to take the first stone and kill them, and so destroy idolatry and deception from the camp. But because these days every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a ministry, every pastor, preacher, and dominie is teaching something different. Everybody has departed from the obedience to the God of Abraham. Everyone is teaching some sort of new sun god, freedom from the law, false religion that will bring us a promise of everlasting life without any circumcision of the heart or flesh. And at the end of the day, the Bible prophesies that the whole world will be deceived by this system, because we are not standing up against friends and brothers and husbands and wives and children when they entice us, when they try to take us away from Yahuwah. We don't stand up against them. In the old days, they were stoned to death. It's a horrible commandment. But before God gave that commandment, he did give the commandment to say, do not have any idols in front of my face. Love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart, and teach his commandments to your children when you stand up and you sit down, when you're on the road and when you buy your house. So he first commands that we teach our children and our family, and as a family we worship God together. Then you will not ever have the need to kill any of your family members that tries to entice you away. Because didn't Joshua say, if you love mother or brother or sister more than me, you are not worthy to be my disciple? It's a very, very difficult commandment. But listen, loving God is not just a wishy-washy emotional feeling. I feel good when I go to church on Sunday and sing a couple of worship songs, and now I feel like I love God. Loving God is a way of life. And the only way to learn this way of life is to learn it from His Torah. His Torah became flesh to teach us the fulfillment on how to fully live it, not just in the flesh but in the heart. Not just in your hand but in your head. That's why God's mark is on the hand and on the head. And that is why Satan's mark is on your forehead and on your hand as well. Because he just replaces it. Gives you a wishy-washy Greek sun god version of the true Messiah, and everybody wanders after this false image that's put up in the temple of God that teaches absolute lawlessness. And we all bow on Ishtar and Christmas and Sunday, and we think we are not doing idolatry. Difficult commandments, guys. Difficult for me to talk about this. But the Bible speaks for itself. You don't need me to explain this to you. Deuteronomy 18 verse 9. I just wanted to give the comment. Deuteronomy 13 also explains that when you find a city where there's a lot of pagan idolatry, and the people of that city tries to entice you to come into their city to worship their gods, you frickin' burn that city up. You don't let any of the treasure of that city cleave to your hands. You keep nothing left. You burn it up. We talked about burning Christmas trees and Spider-Man toys and maybe books and maybe music and whatever you find in your house. Clean your house. Clean it up. Dion Geldenhuis, you can just Google him. Clean your house. It will be a good video to watch. It will maybe open your eyes to all the idolatry we have in our houses. Deuteronomy 18 verse 9. When you come into the land which Yehovah Elohim gave you, you shall not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. It's clear. It's easy to understand. Yeshua is sick of it in the time that he was on earth. He was sick of people who tried to worship him with the traditions of men, with the abominations of the Babylonian nations. He hated it. God hated it all over since he gave his Torah. And Yeshua hates it. And the book of Revelation absolutely hates it. It's false religion. Don't learn the traditions of the nations around you. Don't you dare worship me with those kind of traditions. I'm sick of it. There shall be none found among you that make his son or daughter pass through the fire, or that uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch. And I can talk about this for hours, because the amount of charmers and consulters with familiar spirits that we find in the religious system today is just an absolute abomination. Every Tom, Dick and Harry again says the Holy Spirit is telling them this, and they've got a vision of that, and they had a dream of this, and God told them that, and all those things are enticing the lost sheep away into a cheap grace, little wishy-washy religion. And God calls them charmers, enchanters, witches, necromancers, speaking to the dead. We ought to keep away from it. It's part of God's commandments that falls under monotheism. You shall have no other gods, no other prophets, none. There's a prophet as unto Moses, and to whom you better start listening. Otherwise I'm going to cut you off. Deuteronomy 18:20. But the prophet, which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or if he shall speak in the name of other gods, listen to this, it's extremely important, because God has a name, and his Messiah has a name, and if that name is changed into some sun god Greek version of, then that is the name of another god. Because you can just think for yourself, and don't tell me Jesus and Yeshua is the same name. One is Hebrew, one is Greek. One means Yahuwah is the Savior. The other one means Son of God, Jesus, Son of Zeus. The one was born during the Feast of Tabernacles, the other one during 25 December Christmas. The one died on Pesach, the other on Ishtar. The one keeps Sabbath and the other one Sunday. The one teaches the Torah and the other one teaches lawlessness. A prophet like Moses, we discussed it in detail, who comes in the name of God, of Yahuwah. You shall not let any prophet speak to you that comes in the name of another God, because that prophet will, Deuteronomy 18 verse 20, will speak to you stuff that I have not commanded. In fact, they will speak to you stuff which is in direct contradiction to what I have commanded. Yeshua says, why do you call me Adonai, Adonai? You don't do what my Father commanded. The word, which is the truth, which is the Torah speaking voice of God like Moses, in direct opposition to him is every Tom, Dick and Harry. I must find something else. Every single one that comes to you speaking against what God commanded, even if it is in God's name, is a false prophet, and he shall die. And this is scary. Yahweh says that the prophet that comes in the name of another God, if he teaches anything against what God commanded, that automatically identifies him as a false prophet, and that is automatically and logically, it is idolatry. Even if he claims that he is coming in the name of the God of the Bible, you will recognize them by the fruits that they are wearing, that they are bearing, that they are bringing forth. Fruits of righteousness, obedience to all the things that God says do or don't do, or whether they bear the fruits of rebellion against obedience. Listen to the religious world. Just keep your mouth closed and open up your ears. Can you hear how the so-called prophets are telling people that they come in the name of God, yet they presume to speak a word in my name? They don't speak in my name because the prophet as unto Moses, who speaks only my commandments, he speaks in my name. The rest of the prophets and the pastors and the preachers are pretending, presuming, and lying false prophets, deceiving and enticing and stealing people away from the God of Moses, from the God of the prophet like Moses, Yeshua, stealing us away from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, with beautiful, eloquent, but lying serpent language that says, you won't die. You can break the commandments of God. Don't stress too much, Adam and Eve. Nothing's going to happen to you. I want to read you something amazing from the life of Abraham that you won't find in your Bible. I have told you before that the book of Yashar is a biblical book. The Roman Catholics took it out when they combined all the books to make the Bible or the library. But Yashar is to be found referenced in many other books inside your Bible. So in the book of Yashar, chapter 11, I'm going to read you this whole beautiful story. I'm not going to say anything. You kan jou eie gevolgtrekkings maak. you can understand why somebody like you and me, who is following this God, can indeed call ourselves the seed of Abraham. We are indeed just like our daddy Abraham. We are like our forefather Abraham. If we have come this far in these Bible studies, and you haven't left yet because you're offended because of your little religion that is being hatched to pieces, and you are being brought back onto a road of obedience, which is narrow and difficult, if you are still sticking around, well done. Well done. I'm going to read the story to you. You will know exactly why you are indeed the seed of this man, Abraham. Yashar 11 from verse 13. I'm going to skip a couple of verses. I'm just going to highlight a few verses. I'm going to read you the whole story. In the 50th year of the life of Abraham, son of Terach, Abraham came forth from the house of Noah. He visited Noah, and he went to his father's house. And Abraham knew about Yahuwah, and he went in Yahuwah's ways, and he obeyed Yahuwah's instructions. And Yahuwah his Elohim was with Abraham. And Terach his father was in those days a captain of the host of the king Nimrod. Abraham's father was a captain in Nimrod's army, and Noah's father followed strange gods. Abraham came to his father's house, and he saw 12 gods standing there in their temples, and the anger of Abraham was kindled when he saw these images in his father's house. And Abraham said, As Yahuwah lives, these images shall not remain in my father's house. So shall Yahuwah, who created me, do unto me in 3 days, if I do not break them. And Abram went from them, and his anger burned within him. And Abram asked his father, saying, Father, tell me, please, where is the gods who created heaven and earth, and who created all the sons of men upon the earth, and who created you, and who created me? Please show me those gods. And Terach answered his son Abraham and said, Come, I'll go and show you. Here are they who created all of us. So Terach showed Abraham the 12 images of the gods. So Abram went to his mother, blah, 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 and he said to his mother, Behold, my father has shown me those gods who made heaven and earth and all the sons of men. Now therefore, hasten and fetch me a kid from the flock, and make me some savory meat, so that I may bring a sacrifice to my father's God as an offering for them to eat, and perhaps they will accept me. Okay, so his mother did it, blah, 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 and Abram put the food in front of the 12 gods. Abram saw on the day when he was sitting amongst the gods, they had no voice, no hearing, no motion, and not even one of them could stretch out their hands to take the food. So Abraham mocked them, and he said, Surely the meat is not good enough for you. Maybe I must make you better meat. I'll come back tomorrow. I'll bring you some more meat that's even more savory than this. So his mother helped him again, and Abraham took the savory meat from his mother, brought it before his father's gods in the chambers, and he came near unto them that they might eat. And he placed it before them. And Abraham said unto them, Perhaps now they will eat. He sat there the whole day. And Abraham viewed them, and behold, they had no voice, they had no hearing, nor did one of them stretch out their hands to take from the meat to eat. In the evening of the day in that house, Abraham was clothed with the Ruach of Elohim. And he called out and said, Woe unto my father and this wicked generation, whose hearts are inclined to vanity, because they serve these idols. And when Abraham saw all of these idols which cannot move, his anger was kindled against his father. And he took a hatchet, it's like a hammer, in his hand, and he came unto the chamber of the gods, and he broke all his father's gods. And when he was done breaking the images, he placed the hatchet in the hand of the biggest god which was before them. And he went out. And Terach, his father, came home, for he had heard at the door the sound of the striking of the hatchet. So Terach came into the house to know what was happening. And Terach, having heard the noise of the hatchet, ran to the room of the images as Abraham was running out. So Terach entered the room, found all the idols fallen down and broken, and he saw the hatchet in the hand of the largest idol, which was not broken. So Abraham didn't break the largest idol, he just put the hatchet in his hand. And he saw all the savory meat that was still before them. So Terach saw all of this, and his anger was greatly kindled, and he ran after Abraham and found him and said to him, "What is this work that you have done?" And Terach said, "No, it's not me, Dad. I just brought savory meat before the idols, and when I came near to them that they might eat, all at once the biggest one stretched forth his hand to break all the other ones, because the large ones saw that the works of the smaller ones was not good because they wanted to take the food before him. So he came and he broke them all. See, the hatchet is still in his hand." And Terach's anger was kindled against his son Abraham, and he said to him, "What?" I can just imagine, "What BS are you talking, Abraham? What is this tale that you are telling me? You are speaking lies to me. Is there in these gods, is there any soul or any power to do all of this that you have just told me? Are they not just wood and stone? Have I not myself made them? How can you speak such lies, saying that the large God was the one that smote them? It is you that did place the hatchet in his hands, and then you smote them all." And Abraham answered his father and said to him, and I am repeating Abraham's words today, "How the hell then do you serve them if they have no soul and no power? And if you made them yourself, how the heck can you worship them? They cannot hear your prayers. They cannot answer when you call. They cannot deliver you from the hand of your enemies. You are serving wood and stone that can't speak or hear. And you have forgotten Yahuwah, your Elohim, who created heaven and earth." I'm going to end with that story. And I'm going to let you look inside yourself, whether you see the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob inside of you, knowing that that seed came from the fruit from the tree of life. You have spat out the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil that is teaching you a false way, a deceived way, a deceptive way that might look right until you start comparing the blue in the garments of the people of Israel that reminds them of serving God in the way that God commands it, and not serving God with lawlessness and cheap grace and mercy. What he paid for on the execution stake was your lawlessness, not so that you can continue in lawlessness and make his blood cheap. This is the God we want to serve. We want to love. We want to understand the greatest commandment, love Yahuwah your Elohim. So let's turn away from all idolatry, even if it looks like the truth.